Recovery means to me is freedom and peace.
There is hope.
Recovery is awesome.
Recovery works.
Recovery is possible. There is hope.
Recovery is possible. There is hope.
Recovery to me means freedom. Recovery is possible.
Recovery works. Recovery is always possible. It's fantastic.
Progress, not perfection.
Recovery is possible.
Recovery works.
Recovery is a journey, not a destination.
Hello, welcome to Montana's Peer Network Recovery Talks podcast. I'm Jim Haney, Executive Director, and today's podcast is part of our Mental Health Awareness Month for May, and I have a very special guest today. I'm here with April Seat, and I'm going to have her introduce herself, but I'm really excited about this. We have done a podcast before, but it's been a really long time. So I'm super excited, and thanks for, taking time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah, I love to do these podcasts, but I am the director of outreach for Hope Rescue Mission in Missoula. Also sit on the BAC, the Behavioral Health Advisory Council, the Continuum of Care, and we can go on and on and on about all those things. But yeah, and I've been with the mission. It'll be 10 years in June.
Wow. And you're on the board of directors for
For the
MPN.
Montana Peer Network.
And
I'm also a peer support specialist.
yeah, I see. That's the and all the other stuff.
I'm like, I never know
Exactly.
what to share because it's like this long list.
Yeah. Exactly. No, April, for those of you who don't know April, she is a true peer leader here in Montana. Lots of great stuff always going on, and not afraid to stick her nose into things and be a strong advocate. So that's awesome. But we're going to talk about mental health, your mental health.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I know you and I had many conversations about mental health, sharing that and our experiences. And so I don't know where you want to jump in with it. That's up to you. Yeah.
Well, I'll just start I've been in recovery for 11 years and it was all focused like substance abuse and really just through my addiction, I really never even thought about my mental health. And even when I got sober, it was more like it's just addiction. It really wasn't any mental health stuff that I was dealing with. Although I recognized there was something going on with me. I just didn't never really know what it was until I started walking in this field and really seeing myself and others a little bit at a time. But also, once I kind of got to this place to where I'm like, I really think there's something going on. And I started navigating that process of talking to someone and trying to figure out, why is it that my brain is like this way opposed to other ways? And, a lot of doctors, like wellness doctors would be like, oh, it's just from the long-term use of, methamphetamines and, drugs and, some alcohol and things of that sort. And so I've kind of just played it that way for most of my recovery. But I guess for the past 3 years, I definitely been struggling, and I've kind of seen, we talked a lot about where I was and what I was dealing with, and just couldn't really pinpoint what it was. Although I knew, because I already had been talking to a physician off and on about my mental health. And then, and I kind of just did what I could to kind of cope with, all the thoughts and the things, the racing mind. And it wasn't until recently where I talked to the psychologist that I meet with now, and she's like, your brain is like a 75-inch TV, and there's 1,000 channels on there, and you have to focus on one, and everyone's telling you that I need you here, I need your focus here. And she says, we can deal with those things, but over time you get to a place to where you just can't, you can't anymore. And so, after I had cancer and I had my surgery, it really allowed me to kind of slow down and before I had surgery, they were like, we need to do a mental health evaluation. And I had never had one up until that point. And I thought, well, I'm just having surgery. Why do I need a evaluation?
Right.
And so once I sat with the surgeon and we were talking about it, and they were like, we need to go a little deeper with, where your mental health is. And it was at that point to where like I had to truly like accept and like look at myself a different way. Like
Mm,
these are the things that I'm struggling with because I really can't focus. I can't, calm my thoughts down. It was
mhm,
affecting my sleep. It was affecting my work. It was affecting my personal life, like
mhm,
everything to a place to where like I didn't realize how much ADHD and depression goes hand in hand. And so I have
mhm,
never felt like the deepest like depression I have um until after my surgery. And really the time to sit down and not being the one that's like this high capacity person that is,
mhm,
there's all these things that I need to do. And in that alone time, in that quiet time, I just started to like, I'm really having a problem. Like I can't focus. I can't even capture a thought. It's just so much. And I was so used to living that way for my whole life. And now I'm like, now it's like you can't live that way anymore. So I had no skills. I had nothing to understand what I was going through.
mhm,
And I did talk to like my pastor and a couple other people about it, but um, what it made me feel like is I wasn't like you, or did you just make this up? Because it's not something that I had like mentioned. They just were used to the
mhm,
recovery aspect. And I try to tell them like there's a lot that goes into recovery. Like the trauma
mhm,
that I had growing up and the
mhm,
full story of 25 years of addiction and being homeless and Skid Row and the things that have happened, like
mhm,
that's the trauma that I never dealt with, but I was starting to learn how to deal with that. And had people in my life talking about like, I don't know if it's going to be good for you to be on medication because of your recovery. And I kind of took that at
mm,
value for a while because I'm like, okay, yeah, I serve the Lord and I give it all to him. And that, I don't want to discount my faith in any way, but I did
right.
get to a point to where when things got too heavy, I, you and a couple others probably like seen me at my like worst,
Mhm,
and when the thoughts of suicide start to come in, or the thoughts of
mhm,
um, like I don't want to live anymore because I just can't deal with these thoughts. I want them to
mhm,
go away. And then,
mhm,
I start explaining to some people in my life that like I almost feel manic. Like I can't sleep. I
mhm,
can't like think. I can't do anything. And so now I'm like, is it more than what I'm dealing with?
mhm,
Um
right.
and so finally I had to come to a place where like I just need to like not suffer through life. And this is what I tell my clients. Like, this is not a drug to you. It's what's going to help you get through life and for you to understand that you can cope with this. You can deal with it. You
Mhm,
can't live with it. You can have a successful life for it. And now here I am looking myself in the mirror, having to give myself that same talk,
right.
but also having to accept that like I may be on this medication for the rest of my life. And I had to
Mhm,
come to terms with that,
mhm, mhm,
and and talking to people, I found myself like staying quiet and not saying anything. And I do respect Jim Hicks. He's our executive director. And the one thing about him when I did go to him, it was like beyond someone that like because he doesn't understand. It's not something that he's lived with or had to experience. Of
mhm.
course, with you, it's like it's just natural. It's like, man, you understand it, so it's easy.
Yeah.
He was the first person in my life that didn't really truly understand. That was like, all right, then let's talk more about it. And it kind of gave me a place to where like I didn't know what to do in that moment because I'm like, you want to talk about it? Like,
Right.
okay. And so um I ended up going to the psychologist. We talked and I got prescribed some medication and I started taking it. And then like a week later, I'm like, oh my God, like I really can like focus. And for the first time, like there wasn't all these thoughts, there wasn't anything.
Mhm,
Um, but I had learned for so long how to live with the chaos in my mind. Um,
Right.
that now I don't have the chaos, and now it's like this whole new life that I have. Not only that, but like losing 67 pounds and, being on the other side of cancer and now dealing with my mental health at the same time. You
Yeah.
know, the last 3 months have definitely been hard.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so once I got to a place where I'm like, okay, this is working for me. Uh,
Mhm.
I had a lot of opportunities to talk to other people and then looking back at, being a peer supporter, that I had more that I can relate with others of
Mhm.
like, this just isn't a substance abuse issue. This is a mental
Right.
health issue. And, I started to recognize more things like that's why I would do those things, and so
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
finding myself as I'm like serving the people that we serve each day
Mhm.
and making more sense out of it, because I really thought like the self-doubt, the like I can't do this anymore, I'm not good enough, all of
Mhm.
these things, because I just didn't have control over it.
Mhm.
And so now we are like 2 months into this, and it's been challenging, and I do have more people in my life. The same pastor and his family now are like, we're
Mhm.
sorry that we judged you. We sorry that we thought that we had to protect you so much. And that's where it was coming out of a
Mhm.
place of love of like, you can't be on any
Sure.
substance. And I'm like, well, for me, now I know how to advocate for myself, like, you know, being able to write my own crisis plan. And for me, my crisis plan for substance abuse was like when I get to secrets and it's a fast track to relapse. Now
Mhm.
I have a whole new crisis plan that involves both, that like when I'm in this place, this is going to lead me down this road. And now I have medications that I could possibly abuse. And so I've
Mhm.
just set up this like really strong accountability piece for me because um like I'm well now, like as far as my thoughts, not well like I would like to be, but definitely in a
Yeah.
place of like just embracing my mental health and saying
Mhm.
like, yes, I struggle with mental health issues. Um,
Yeah.
and before I couldn't say that. And that was a part of me in that dark depression of having to accept like I'm not I'm not what everyone, I felt almost like a fraud. Like I'm not what
Mhm.
everyone else, sees and looks at, because I come
Mhm.
home and I'm not the high capacity extroverted April. I'm not the like
Mhm.
laughing and able to cover that up. And now I'm at a point to where like I can't even like do that anymore. I can't even put on that mask or get to a place
Yeah.
where, like I'm just going to be happy today and then really I'm miserable, and so
Right.
like
Right.
um
Right.
so it's a whole new like life and change for me. And really just being able to see mental health for my own actual personal experience has been
Mhm.
like super amazing. It could be
Mhm.
scary. It can be like the unknown of like how long is this going to work? Am I going to go down this rabbit hole of all these different
Right.
medications? Because
Right.
it's a part of it. And so
Yes. Yes.
learning how to educate the people that were in my closest group, I think was probably the hardest challenge, um, beyond like just accepting it for myself. Um,
Mhm.
and so now I feel like I feel empowered to be like, okay, when we're talking about mental health, it's like now I can actually sit there and talk to someone and really be like, like for me, this is what I had to do,
Mhm.
because I did have a lot of criticism, and with my faith community, there's a lot of people that have this crazy thoughts about what substance abuse is and mental health, and we're people, and so they don't
Right.
see it for what it is. And so being able to like do some research and studying and asking people like, how do I have these conversations, because I was always used to having conversations to help others, you know and give
Right.
sourcing things. And so
Right.
it's definitely hard to like learn how to resource for yourself and
Yeah.
have those conversations. But um I think a lot of people just don't understand the darkness that someone can live in for so long.
Mhm.
And then when like it's like say if I would have just like went forward with that suicide, everybody in my life would have thought, no, April's fine. She was fine. Like what happened? But I really wasn't fine. And I find a lot
Right.
of times that the people that struggle with mental health they're not fine, but they can appear to be fine and
Right.
nobody knows. And like how do we change that? How do we make it like easier for us to have those conversations that we're so like we don't talk about that. And that's kind of been
Right.
my whole life. We don't talk about that. You're fine. You just
Right.
suck it up. And so you live your whole life that way and now you have to figure it out. And so like
Yeah.
yeah. And so
Well,
just
that's part of it.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of doing this,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
we have to talk about this because like one of the things that I wrote down, what you said right in the beginning was, why was there no recognition? Because I had a similar experience.
Mhm.
And for me, I know it was easier to talk about drinking too much as
Mhm.
the reason sort of why, but it really wasn't until I addressed the mental health that I actually started to get better.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that we say things like journey, recovery is a journey, but I I know for me it is, and there's all kinds of stuff that happens in this journey.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that it's like I know from my personal experience and from being a peer supporter in the beginning, it's like, oh, you just want it to all get better right away. And I think it's easy to just say, well, it's just all the drinking. But then once you kind of take that away, once that moves to the side, and it's different for everybody, then I think that the real true trauma, mental health, whatever it is. But you mentioned something else I wrote down, and I really want to talk about this part, which is the life stressors, because those seem to be those pivot points in my own life. And I heard you say it in yours. That seems to accelerate it or bring it to the surface.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely did. Like and that was the hardest thing because it was so um like I remember calling you and other people like I don't know what's the matter with me. Like I
Mhm.
don't know. And
Yeah,
little did I know that over time it's progressing and I just don't know it. And
right.
then all of a sudden it's like here it is. You
Yeah,
can't you cannot go back to what you used to be.
right.
And
Right.
the more I tried, the more depressed and the harder it was. And the thoughts of
Yes.
suicide, like because I'm like,
Yes.
you know, living in that comfort of that chaos, that pain, that, you know,
The suffering of it all.
the
Yeah.
suffering of it all. And now like you don't have that in you anymore. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so if I can't survive like I've been surviving all of my whole entire life,
Hmm.
like I don't know how I go on,
Yeah.
because every coping skill that I've ever learned and have done, it was like, okay, you've exhausted that. And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now you
Yeah.
have to figure
Yeah.
out what a new life looks like.
Right.
Whole
Exactly.
new life. It's like
Right.
being a newborn baby at 46 years old. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to like feed myself right. You know what I mean? Like it's like, and that's even with the surgery, like it's just been so crazy. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, and I pretty much am like, okay, April, you know your life. Like when things happen, it kind of always happens all at once for me. And I'm like, can we just spread this stuff out a little bit? Like I just need a break. And like this is crazy. But then,
Yeah.
but then it's
Yeah.
like, but the mental health part of it, and even coming to a place to where like I'm gonna go out and just go and get drunk. And that wasn't my thing. Um, but it was like I just maybe if I can just put myself in a place to where I don't have to stand out so much and I can just kind of fit in.
Yeah.
I was seeking that so much. And
Yeah.
the hard part
Yeah.
is like for me as a leader in this community and for as well known as I am, it's really hard to find a safe place for me to go and like do this, have
Yeah.
this conversation and
Yes.
and
Yes.
not having a like limited places to go to get myself well.
Yes.
And it's like like doing Zoom. I did a couple of Zoom mental health ones, but like I miss the relational piece of
Yeah. Yeah.
let's go and have coffee and or let's go for a walk.
Yeah.
Learning new ways to deal with like this new person that I am.
Yeah.
And so it's still I'm still in this place of like this week has been really good. Like I heard myself laugh on Monday night. Um and I don't think that I've belted out a laugh like that in God, it's been a long time.
Mhm.
That true form April,
Yeah.
you can hear her down the road. And for 3 hours, I visited with Steve Jackson and his wife. Steve is the one that hired me for the mission. And I mean, they're like two old hippies and they're just hilarious. And so I'm like, you guys really helped me like just laugh. And I'm here I am
Mhm.
joking about them, laughing at them, we're laughing at each other, but
Right.
it did something for my soul that I
Yeah.
like this is like what I need. And there was a reminder in that like even through this new journey and this new mental health walk and accepting where I'm at and like, the medication and knowing it's working, I still have those giftings. I still have April there. It's just
Mhm.
not going to look the same.
Right.
And but yeah, it's definitely been challenging and a lot of people that are in recovery are in our situations. Um, well, I'm going to say it. For me, there's a lot of people that seen me like get through things and be the strong one. And,
Right.
I've been in a
Right.
real time where I haven't been strong. And when people were like, you're strong, you can get through this. And I'm like, don't fucking say that or effing say that because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't have that strength in me
This,
anymore. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
frustrating or the one-liners
Yes.
and I just like and so I isolated.
This,
I kept myself from everyone and
yeah.
it just made things worse. And I'm like, how am I gonna
Yeah.
dig myself out of this? I just couldn't see myself getting out of it.
I think this is a flaw in the peer workforce. This is a big unaddressed flaw where those of us who are peer leaders, when we're having mental health challenges, where do we go?
Yeah. Who takes care of
Because
us?
there's so much burden that's placed on us. There's this expectation that we're always going to be this high achieving leader. We're going to go out and advocate for every little thing that comes along and we're always on. But there are times where it's like, no, I need to step back and,
Yeah.
right, and take care of myself. And there's other good things that come from that, right? Is one, I'm learning how to take care of myself, but it does allow other leaders to step up. But I know this from talking to you, we share this same similar experience. When you do that, often there's criticism that comes back at you. It's like, well, what's wrong with you? How come you're not doing this? How come you're not pursuing
Yeah.
this grant? How come you're not going to speak at this other conference? How come you're not? And there's all this pressure.
Pressure. Yes.
And it's like we're forgetting we're people in recovery and we need to give each other a break
Mm-hmm.
from time to time and understand that I can't do that right now.
Yeah. And it became to a place to where like I'm working all day and you know, and there's times where like maybe 3, 4 times a day, and I was always able to, and I would just find myself just like sobbing uncontrollably. And like 3 weeks ago, I went into our director of operations office and I was just sobbing and crying. And I don't think I've ever like directly said this to anyone. And I couldn't get anything out of me, but like, I just need help.
Yeah.
I need help. And I'm not asking for help in any other way. Like I need help. Something's wrong with me. And
Yeah.
and at first it's like, oh, we're thinking about a sabbatical. And I'm like, the last thing that you guys need to do is put me in a place alone
Isolate me.
and
Yeah.
isolate me
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
when I say I need
Yeah.
help, I
Yeah.
need to probably give you my guns. I need to
Yeah.
probably like clean out
Yeah.
my medications. I need help
Yeah.
because I don't know. I can't live like this anymore. And then, I said it to some people in my life and I go to a life coach now, which is great. And and he's, helping me spiritually and like the whole life rhythm thing. And what I found is that like I've had a lot of people in my life give me all these tools. Like, here's all these tools, and here they are, and you fill up your toolbox. But then I look at that toolbox and I'm like, I don't even know how to use any of them. I only know how to help others use those.
Mm,
But for myself to have to pick up a tool and be like, okay, I have to use this for myself,
mhm,
um, that was a part of my mental health. Like, I can't do it. Like,
mhm.
like, hands down, was writing my resignation letters and thinking about packing up and just moving somewhere, because
Right.
and like these life-changing things, and I'm like, I just, but it was like me even hearing myself like cry out for that help. It
Mhm.
reminded me of when the last time I was in Skid Row and I really wanted to be done with drugs, and I kind of looked around and seen the environment that I was in, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And I just remember like saying, I need help. And for the first time, there was somebody that like seen like, okay, this girl needs help. And that was the first time where it took me back to that, and saying it to like Jim and Jeannie and to Pastor Jason and them, like, I need help. And
Yeah.
it almost like it literally like it crippled them almost. It like put them in a place to where it's like, oh no, like what do we do?
Yeah. Well,
And
that's just it, right? Because people don't,
yeah,
when you say that and it's mental health, people don't know what to do. But if you say I fell down and broke my arm or I got chest pains, people,
yeah.
hey, they know what to do. Hey,
Call 911,
yeah, you're unconscious. I'll do CPR.
Yeah,
People know. But when you say mental health, that's a good way to like it just freezes people up. Like they don't have a clue. They have no idea. Yeah.
yeah. And so I found a book. Um, it's it's actually really good, and it's about living with like ADHD and depression and all that stuff. And the only thing I can do was I just started researching for myself, because I'm like, I just need to understand why I am the way that I am
Yeah.
and why I can't do it anymore. And so in that, I ended up like ordering this book, and I didn't know how to it's called Order from Oops. Order from Chaos. Um and it really talks about like how you can structure your life and how you can actually have structure and a calendar, and like you can have this life rhythm even though you're walking through these things. And I
Mhm.
didn't have what I needed for me to help me through this, so I had to do some research. But it
Mhm.
also woke me up to like, okay, if I can't get that help, what do I do with all the knowledge that I've been able to gain through these
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
and, and really my heart is like, it's time to like get out of the weeds of like the client focus type stuff, train up who I have to take over that, but really starting to like think about how do we train our community? How do we train the people around us? How do we
Mhm.
give them the tools to see like when someone's in crisis, this is how you approach them?
Yeah.
Because it was hard for me to see everybody fleeing from me and then being like, what's the matter? And like, we're
Yeah.
praying for you. But I'm like, maybe I just need someone just to give me a hug. Maybe I
Yeah.
need someone to just sit with me and listen. There's many times where people want to respond and they start wanting to tell you how to do things. And I'm like,
Right.
I
Right.
don't need that. I just need
That's
someone to
yeah.
hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And, and I think we just need to open ourselves up more to that. And how do we do that as peer supporters? How do we do that as, leaders in our communities and leaders in, being advocates at the state is like,
Right.
it's time. Like we needed to be doing more things like this. How do we put it out
Yes.
that it's not just about substance abuse, that there's, 80% of the people that I work with, they're struggling with mental health issues that are not being
Yeah.
taken care of.
It's
And
it's mostly mental health
yeah,
issues.
mostly all. And I would say it was higher, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
no one sees it for what it is. Like what's the
Right.
matter with you and
Right.
those people. And
Right.
then,
Right.
you know,
They're choosing to drink they're choosing to do drugs. They're choosing to, yeah.
Yeah, if you had a million thoughts or a million voices in your head and you wanted to
Yeah.
quiet them out, like
Right.
you're gonna do something, you
Yeah,
know? And so
exactly.
for me, it's been like in this week, and like literally like Monday was like this turning point for me where I'm like, I'm just gonna accept this, who I am, because I don't recognize who I am, even mentally or physically. There's been so much that changed
Yeah.
that there's this like the light bulb was screwed on, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be good because
Yeah.
I've gotten through all these other things. Um, and just the laughter of it all, finding that happiness and that joy. Um, even though nobody really like still has figured it out. Um, it did take everyone to just be quiet and allow me to take my time and answer the question when they ask, how can I help you?
Yeah.
I didn't know how to answer that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so as I like started walking, okay, this is what can help me. Like Jim Hicks, he'll send me a message. Hey, here's a coaching question. You know, when you find yourself in this place, what do you go to and what do you do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is fantastic. That's the little bit of help that's helped me because now I have to sit down and really think about that and write it down and write out a plan for my life. But being if I wasn't medicated and where I am, there's no way I could have done that. You know,
Yeah.
I could not have sat down and said, this is the core issue and this is how I want to tackle it with my life coach, my therapist, um, really making boundaries at work. Like this is what I'm not doing anymore, and this is what needs to happen because
Nice.
I will not be able to do this. The long game is no longer the long game. Everything's a short game for me
Right.
to
Right.
keep on.
Yeah. 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 I mean, the whole journey of recovery, it really is. And time is such a, I say this a lot to people, is just, you have to give things time. There's just time. It's not just, oh, I'm in recovery now and everything's, it's just
Yeah.
like, right? Because things get revealed and you change as a person and these life stressors come up and it brings things out. And some people, they go the opposite direction. When life stressors come, they just crumble because they don't have any of the skills to see that through, and they'll revert right back. Will revert right back. And you know this, we've talked about this many, many times, the piece just around, we're still not recognizing the mental health piece. That's the underlying issue. We just keep,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, we need more treatments. I just heard this yesterday I was at a provider, and we need more inpatient treatment centers. Can we advocate with the state to put more people in substance, and it's like, yeah, we need more recovery programs so that we're addressing everything, so that people have this safe place to go and connect with others. And like,
And it's not setting people apart.
yeah, 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 because they had this list and they said, well, we sent these people and all of them have, none of them completed treatment. And it's like, well, maybe they weren't ready to go, right? Because it's just like, oh, they're drinking too much or they're doing drugs, so we're going to send them out, rather than there could be all these underlying mental health issues that are going on.
Self-medicating.
Exactly. And if you have places like drop-in centers, safe
Mhm.
places where people can go, and you create this environment, time is this huge factor instead of just, we're going to launch people out to these programs. And then if they even finish it and they come back, it's all still the same. Yes,
Yeah.
they learned some skills in treatment, met some people, but they really didn't get to the mental health stuff because we're so focused on, oh, you have to be sober, you have to be clean, let's UA them, and all that. So I know we need more focus on mental health, and I appreciate you coming on to talk about this issue with mental health, because this is really what it's about, I think, and how we're going to change it.
Yeah, for sure. And even
Talking.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we need to be real about it so people can
Mhm.
actually like like, we share stories about people in recovery. Like, I was a meth addict and I was homeless and now look at me. Like people don't see that like I was struggling with this mental health issue, but now I'm on this positive journey and I've recovered. And
Yeah.
people don't understand like what recovery means. And so like with our drop-in center, I love that we work with 406 Recovery because they're all about mental health and substance abuse, co-occurring. And in the future, we're going to be working together that we will have um, that 1.0 and 2.1
Yeah.
at our other drop-in center because we can't keep doing what we're doing if we're not focused on mental
Right.
health. We just can't.
Right.
It has to go
Exactly.
hand in hand. And so
Right.
like
Right.
406 Recovery has been fantastic at our temporary safe outdoor space at that drop-in center. We have seen a lot of success because they're on site, they're working with them. And
Nice.
I'm like, okay. So I talked to him and I'm like, we really, really, really would love to have you at this drop-in center.
Yeah.
Because they don't have like an office. And I'm like, we will make you an office, but this
Yeah.
is something that we can't go forward. And then they can bring in their LACs and their meetings. And like it's just going to be able, like being able to build and have a drop-in center, it's really opened me up and a lot of others to see the capacity of how much can actually be done than
Yeah.
than usual. Like,
Right.
than maybe
Right.
and all the grant
Right.
money. But I love the drop-in center model because it's like we can introduce these things and it's all preventative. And that's one thing that we don't talk about is the prevention.
Right.
We
Right.
gotta stop being in emergency mode of like,
Right.
it's
Right.
all emergency reaction when we should
Right.
be looking at prevention. You know,
Exactly.
how do we prevent
Exactly.
this? How do
Yeah.
what do we need to do to get
Yeah.
people from getting to this point?
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We need to stop. There's so much misuse of words. Prevention is one of them, right? And we talk about prevention, but it's really like, prevention is actually these kinds of programs. And it's not just a bunch of words because you can't wait until the person's in crisis. It needs to be before that because there's so much suffering that happens in crisis and the
Yeah.
cost on top of
Mhm.
that. And so, yeah, no, that's and you and I could probably do a whole nother podcast on that topic right there.
So we will.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I mean, I
That'd
would
be
love
totally
to.
cool.
This is something
Yeah,
that's like giving me a new like a new passion. It's like I have the same
nice.
heart for the broken, the lost, the hurting, but
Yeah,
I do think that as Americans that we need to shift what we see as broken. We need to
yeah,
shift what we see as
yeah,
hurt
yeah.
because they can be the ones that are making decisions for this
Mhm.
entire work country. Are they
Yeah,
be
yeah,
the ones, you know what I mean? It
yeah,
doesn't look like the dude in the camp site that's mentally ill with,
yeah,
drunk. And we really need to change the way that we see things. We need to take off the scales and take off
yeah,
the blinders up to what it is because it's it's not a one size fits all the approach that everyone takes nowadays, but that
yeah.
early intervention and prevention are the things that we really need to hit the ground running with, um,
Agreed.
because there's a lot of things that could have been prevented for me even being where I am because
Yes.
I'm not the addict anymore. I'm one of the ones that people think like, oh, she's fine. But
Right.
here I am. I find myself in this place of like,
Yeah.
what is it? What am I going to look like? And I know a lot of
Yeah.
people hide behind that.
Yeah.
And and
Yes.
and
Yes.
so like if there was a way that we could have done some prevention,
Yeah.
I think there could have been. I just didn't, for me, I just needed to do some accepting, but we
Yeah.
need to talk about it. We need to have the right things out
Yes.
there so people can be well.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, well,
So we have like
April,
10 more podcasts.
I know. The time has like zipped by like
I know.
super fast. I mean, so we'll do that. We'll have you back on and we'll do some of these other topics because there's a bunch there. Um, yeah, and I appreciate you being so open and coming on and sharing. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. I love it. I really do. And we just need to get the word out.
Yeah. And thank you to you, all of our listeners, for Recovery Talks. I'm Jim Haney, Montana's Peer Network. Check out our other podcasts wherever you listen to your podcasts at. I know SoundCloud and our website and iTunes, and there's all kinds of places to go. So thank you very much, and take care.
There's always hope.
Recovery is possible. Recovery works.
There is hope in recovery.
Healing takes time.
Recovery means resilience.
You can get through anything. Recovery works.
Recovery rocks!